Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got why Payton Wilson was an impossible pick for the Steelers. Let's check this out.
Over the last few weeks, I've done a ton of videos on different rookies from the 2020.
Hey, the only reason he fell in the draft is because of injury concerns.
About another player who
isn't he playing on one
At one
ACL?
point, he came from an extremely small town, and his chances of ever becoming a big-time recruit were pretty much zero. He also suffered more than 4 injuries while he was in college, and despite that, ended up becoming the best linebacker in college football, and is now a rookie with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They got to steal,
bro. His name is Payton Wilson. Today, we're to talk about his impossible story. How he went from a small-town kid who overcame 4 different injuries to now being a guy that some say is a steal of the draft.
Yeah.
But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next.
Okay.
Now let's get started and talk about the insane rise of Payton Wilson. Recently, one of you guys commented on a video to make a video about Payton Wilson, and I'm very glad you did. He was a prospect that I never really thought about, and he actually has a really cool story, but in order to understand who he is, we first need to go back in time.
Okay.
He was one of the premier high school football prospects in the country at one point, but he had 2 different ACL injuries in 9 months, and that forced him to almost give up football. He had to learn extreme mental toughness, and thankfully he would rely on that toughness and his natural athleticism. Going back in time, he grew up playing baseball with his brother Bryce, and his most important sport was wrestling. He eventually became a state champion wrestler at Orange High School in Hillsborough, North Carolina, and he had been wrestling since the age of 4, and that really helped him on the gridiron. He said, quote, "Wrestling instills a lot into you when it comes to football. In hand fighting, if I get my hands on you, you're going to go to the ground, and it helps you to understand leverage and torque. But wrestling is different. In football,
I mean, he's got to be tough to survive for brutal injuries like that.
Mess up, you're going to go on top of your head and get embarrassed in front of your mom, dad, and friends." Yeah, it makes sense. In terms of football, he was born to play the linebacker position, and also apparently his family liked another North Carolina school. It was Duke. The Wilson family actually ended up growing up going to Duke games, and he said, quote, "My dad and brother were Duke fans. I've never really had a preference, I just like watching football." Wilson's dad had been a standout football player at Orange High School, while his mother was also a return god. What the world? I did say he played baseball with his older brother Bryce, and he was actually really good. He was a star at both football and basketball at Orange before he was actually selected in the 4th round of the 2016 MLB draft. That's pretty good. In middle school, Payton would eventually start to get recognition, as his coach Aaron Carr said, quote, "He was a phenomenal player, a great teammate, and a great friend. We kind of knew all along that he was going to be special, and you could tell in middle school that he was going to be great." As a freshman at Orange, Wilson played on the JV team and did a little bit of everything. As a sophomore, he'd get more into a role defensively and would eventually record 36 tackles, including 10 TFLs, and that came in just 5 varsity games.
Damn.
He also ran for over 750 yards and caught over 300 yards worth of passes. That came his junior season, and then he had a growth spurt that really helped him out. His coach said, quote, "A lot of kids that grow that tall are really fast and awkward, like a newborn giraffe." But he never really had that.
Yo, that's a crazy ass comparison.
Schools such as NC State, Wake Forest, East Carolina, and Appalachian State all offered him pretty early on. Wilson wanted to show college coaches he could play more than just one position, and that he was athletic. That would eventually end up happening, as then as a junior, he blew up nationally. He eventually got an offer from Notre Dame, and he was considered a do-it-all type prospect. His coach said, quote, "He's very versatile, and we've used him at wide receiver, running back, and tight end. He also even played safety for us, defensive end, and returned punts." Eventually, he was listed as a 4-star recruit and would choose to commit to play for North Carolina. Why the Tar Heels? He said, quote, "It felt like home for the whole recruiting process, and I feel it's a place I can go and get some playing time. The future is bright for UNC, and I'm ready to go and see what we can do." But he would end up having some setbacks. During his senior year, he had a brutal knee injury, and this would happen on the opening kickoff in one of their games against Cedar Ridge.
What was it?
This would end up holding him back, and I guess with all that time to think, he decided he was going to switch things up. In November of 2017, he said, quote, "This is one of the hardest decisions I've had to make, and I'd like to thank Coach Fedora and Coach JP for everything they've done for me, but I'm going to reopen my recruiting process and decommit from UNC." So from there were plenty of schools that really wanted him, and it looked like Notre Dame or even Ohio State was probably going to land him. But he eventually chose to stay in-state and commit to play for NC State. Why did he go to the Wolfpack? Well, he had somewhat of a funny answer. He said, quote, "I'm a country guy who loves to play hard-nosed football, and that's what they are about there. They care about football at State.
Damn, they cannot tackle this nigga?
Season. I don't know if that's entirely true, as UNC has had some really good years, But maybe at the time of his commitment, NC State was a little bit better, I don't really know. But this all came after Dave Doran decided to stay in Raleigh, and Payton Wilson was now going there.
Okay.
This was a huge get for NC State, but as I said, those injuries would cause a setback. The first one came towards the end of his senior year, and he said, quote, "The toughest thing for me was the mental aspect. Physically, it was a matter of rehab and waiting, but mentally, seeing your brothers and friends go out there and practice, that really sucked." According to 24/7 Sports, Wilson was a 4-star recruit, the number 4 outside linebacker, and the 39th best player in the class of 2018. So, how would he end up doing in Raleigh? Well, let's take a look. So when Wilson arrived at NC State, instead of playing in front of 60,000 people in 2018, he would spend time rehabbing. He hurt his ACL once again for the second time in 9 months, and this helped him gain
two ACL tears in the span of 1 year is crazy.
Once again for the second time in 9 months.
Damn,
and this
bro.
helped him gain a new appreciation.
That's gotta fuck with your mental.
Football. He said, quote, "I missed 2 years due to injury, but before I got injured, football was just football, and I never realized how fast something could be taken away." Well, by the time State's 2019 fall camp started, he was ready to roll, and he would make up for lost time.
Okay.
In 2019, in total with the Pack, he finished with 69 tackles and 3 pass deflections, plus he had his first career interception. Wilson looked like the real deal, and in 2020, he went even more crazy. He ended up finishing with 108 total tackles with 1 pass deflection and 2 interceptions. 2020 was his breakout moment, and I guess technically he could have declared for the draft because it was after 3 years, but Wilson was not done yet. It was a weird 2020 season in college football, and he was going to try to build upon it even more. Sadly, injuries would really get in the way, as in 2021, he would miss a total of 10 different games. That led him to only having 5 tackles, and Wilson was extremely upset after all that. In fact, between 2019 and 2022, he would miss a total of 15 different games for the Pack. Luckily, 2022 would be a much better season, as in total this time he had 83 tackles with 3 pass deflections and another pick.
Okay.
Wilson was one of the better linebackers in the country, but he decided to use his extra year of eligibility and come back for one more special season. He was hoping that NC State would be able to build upon last year, and it was semi-true. In total, Wilson had a crazy year. He by far became the best linebacker in the country.
What was his stats?
As he finished with 138 tackles, 6 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, 6 sacks, and 3 interceptions.
Damn,
One of them was
okay.
even a pick 6, and Wilson literally did pretty much everything. Their offensive lineman Joe Sculthorpe said, quote, "The kid's a freak. He has one speed, and that is go. It doesn't just happen on game day. He puts that in throughout the week and shows up on game day." Because of that, he was named the 2023 ACC Defensive Player of the Year and won the Bednarik Award for the best defensive player in all of college football. He also won the Butkus Award for the best linebacker in the country and became an AP First Team All-American. You could say,
if it wasn't for his injuries, bro, he would have easily went in like probably like the late first round, early second.
Combination of size, physicality,
but we don't usually see linebackers go in the first round like
that.
that.
Would likely go in the second round. Combine that also with his mindset and determination, and this guy was a rare breed. In 47 total games at the Pack, he made 402 tackles, including 48 TFLs, and also had 15 sacks and 7 interceptions. This was great for Payton, and he would now head off to the NFL draft. He was seen as the most athletic defender in this year's draft class, and excelled at pretty much everything on the football field, and checked every single box. But there was one near universal agreement in the draft community, and that was his injury history.
Yeah.
He had 4 different injuries from 2018 to 2022, and it seemed like the guy was literally always hurt. Whether it was his knees or his shoulders, Payton Wilson was on the sidelines all the time because of that. To make matters worse,
but you know, NFL, like the NFL medical staff is way different from college medical staff, so maybe him being at the NFL level will maybe limit some of his injuries. But you know what I'm saying, usually when people who have injury concerns in college, they carry that on to the NFL. But sometimes that's not the case.
Also reported that he was apparently missing.
Because with Stingley, he had some injury concerns, but you know what I'm saying, he was healthy last year.
This just added a ton of concern that he would not be able to make it in the NFL because of the durability that's necessary to make it, because of the insane durability that is required. According to NFL Mock Database, Payton Wilson was seen as a second-round pick and the 45th best prospect in this year's draft class.
Okay.
He even had a 10% chance of going in the first round, and the consensus was he'd be taken in the top half of the second night. Sadly, that would not end up happening, as he would fall all the way to pick number 98. In many people's eyes, this became the steal of the draft, as a guy who was potentially a first-round talent ended up slipping to the third round. On top of his athleticism,
that's what injury concerns can do to players, bro.
40-yard dash of all linebackers with a 4.43 time, and time for the fastest 10-yard split. They were getting a guy who could pretty much do everything.
4.43 is crazy.
He was super excited to get up to the NFL, and he said, quote, "I grew up on a farm in a small town.
Bro, these linebackers are getting more freakier and freakier every year.
I want to prove I'm the bigger man, the stronger man, and if you beat me, I'm coming back 100 times over." That's the sort of attitude that really fits in with the Pittsburgh Steelers and their culture, and many are super excited for his potential there. Wilson said, quote, "I like to take people's heads off, and I like to fly around with the best of them."
Damn.
Steelers fans are definitely going to like that. And not only was Wilson accomplished at many sports, he has firsthand knowledge of how professional athletes are supposed to act, as his brother was obviously that 4th round pick in the MLB draft and got his chance to play in the majors. Okay. Overall, it's a pretty cool story for Payton Wilson, as he came from a small town, overcame 4 different injuries, and became one of the best players in college football, and now get his chance in the league. I'm definitely not betting against him, and I definitely am excited to see what he's going to do in Pittsburgh. But what do you guys think? If you're a Steelers or an NC State fan, what do you think of Payton Wilson? What other rookie should I cover next? And before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, including my video about the rise of Trey Benson. I'll see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.
Hey man, what do you guys think about Payton Wilson? Y'all let me know down in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on post notifications and notify whenever I drop another banger video. We're on the road to 300 subs. Time to get there for more banger NFL content like this. And without further ado, I'm out. Gang!